Welcome to Subramani. I'm going to talk about very basics today of investing. What is investing? Investing, if you go to the Graham definition, is getting a sum of money greater than the money that you put. Right? It's as simple as that. But Buffett had a slightly higher definition, saying it has to cover the inflation and the taxes. So which means if inflation is 7% and taxation is 30%, we are talking of and you have invested 100 rupees, so 100 should become at least 107 to cover the inflation, and it should become another, say, 2.5 rupees is lost to taxation, so it should become at least 109.5 or 110 for convenience purposes, at least your 10% return. Just make sure that your purchasing power is maintained. So if you have a glass costing $100, you go to buy it in the market, then you decide that, oh, I don't want to buy this glass. You come back home and you go back exactly after 1 year and you tell him, oh, I want that same glass which I looked at last year, and here is $100. He is going to tell you, no, it is 107. That is inflation. Of course, when we talk about inflation, we talk about a general sustained increase in price of a variety of commodities. That is the economic definition of inflation. So it has to take care of inflation and it has to take care of taxes. So that is what we are looking for in an investment. We are looking for real return. Once you have that, don't bother too much of alpha, beta, gamma, whether it is beating the index, whether it is getting greater return than your relative's return, right? Many people think relative return means that. Well, I'm not getting into that now, but largely you are looking for inflation adjusted, tax adjusted return. That is all. If your portfolio can do that, and remember, your whole portfolio has to do that, and that is not going to be very easy because there are some drags, right? So cash or money kept in the savings bank account, it's perhaps yielding about 2%, and on that there is a 30% tax, so it's almost yielding nothing, right? So money kept in the savings bank account, money kept perhaps even in liquid funds may not get good returns. Some bond funds have returned 1% return last 1 year, right? So one thing is to say we don't take risk. Second is to say you have to also give returns, right? It's no point in saying we don't take risk. I also don't take risk in the money kept in the savings bank account, but it's not giving any return. My whole portfolio has to outperform inflation and tax. So there has to be an element of equity. Of course, in all portfolios there will be an element of equity, there will be an element of debt, there will be an element of gold. All this would be there in all mutual funds, in a well balanced mutual fund. So largely we are looking for a real return, which means it is the nominal return minus taxation and minus inflation. Thank you. So what are the range of investments that one can make? You can start with the savings bank account, which is a saving product. You can have fixed deposits. You can have money market mutual funds, which are liquid funds. You can have ultra short bond funds. You can have medium term bond funds. You can have gilt funds. You can have equity. You can have gold. You can have other metals. And if you are in one country, you can have investments in other countries, right? So when I say gold, I mean metals, because today people are investing in you can invest in a mutual fund which invests in different metals, right? So much of variety is available. It is for you to decide how you want to invest and where you want to invest. So given those circumstances, let us have a look at what will really outperform. Will equity outperform bonds? Will equity outperform gold? What will happen? So one more investment, which let me put a googly, let me introduce one more investment. You can also do farming, right? You can buy land, you can do farming, you can buy a house, you can give it on rent, you can buy an office, you can give it on rent. So largely this is the full array of assets that you can own. You can own real estate, gold, equity, bonds. Largely these four is where most of us are. And obviously there is metal. When I say metals, I mean metals other than gold also today you can invest. So let us have a look at each of them and see which is likely to outperform the other. So even whether it is Indian markets or US market, this is the variety that is available. Of course, now I'll have to add one more thing called cryptocurrency, but I'm not including cryptocurrency now. I'm waiting for more legislation to happen in India before I want to include it as a serious part of anybody's assets. Right now my investment there is zero, and maybe I will regret it and when I look at some of the returns, but I'm not very comfortable investing in crypto as of now. I have a right to, I have been saying, I have a right to change my mind. As of now, I have zero crypto investments, and I don't consider it worth investing as long as the regulation is not in place. One thing you have to remember, that inflation has destroyed wealth even in countries like US, where inflation is less than it is in India. So from 1965 till today, which is 2022, I don't think the dollar is worth more than more than 5 cents, or rather $100 of 1965 would be having a purchasing power of about $4 or $5 as of today. That is the impact of inflation in a country like US, where inflation is not very high. But this is a trick question, because 1965 was pre 1973, when there was oil shock, and US also saw inflation of 14% and 15%, if I'm not wrong. Of course, many of you would not have read so much about history, but inflation has a terrible history even in countries like US. India, of course, has seen 14% and 18% inflation. So when somebody tells you that we got 12% return in PPF, you have to tell him, Kake, but inflation was 14%. So it's not, you never got a great return in PPF. Even today, the return that you're getting in PPF may not be too good or too bad, but it is around that, it fluctuates between -1 to 1%. That's all. You don't get anything more than that. So if the government of India is giving you 7.15 in PPF, assume that inflation is 7.15%. So that's it. So that's, you are getting a zero return, but it is for people to hang on to say, oh, those days we got 12% return. Believe me, inflation was 13%. You got your -1 is what you got in all those instruments. So the question is, where should you be investing? Should you be investing in debt products? Should you be investing in real estate? Should you be investing in farmland? Should you be investing in metals? Should you be investing in equity? Right? These are the questions to answer. I mean, these are the asset classes. So remember, bonds would have destroyed your wealth in a country like India, which had high inflation. Bonds would have destroyed your wealth in most parts of the world, simply because of inflation. However, what happens is, suppose you had bought US bonds in 1980, and that was a 50-year bond. You would have gained a lot, because interest rates were at 18%, and from 18% it has fallen to less than 1.8%. So that dramatic fall you would have captured, and you wouldn't have done too badly. But yes, compared to equity, you wouldn't have done well, and you may not have protected yourself against inflation, simply because your original money remains as it is. This money would have come, got taxed, got spent, and real return may not be too great. But yes, this last 42 years in the US market should be considered a boom for the bondholders, but I think that is coming to an end. And 50-year bonds, many people may not have held. They would have said, oh, interest rates are so low, I don't think it can go lower, so let me book profits, and they may have sold out, right? High interest rates can compensate for some of the loss due to inflation, but then industry will protest and bring the interest rate down, or people will just not borrow. So banks may not be able to pay a very high interest rate. They will only be able to pay you an interest rate which they can afford, because they have to lend it forward. So if they take money from you at 7%, and if they are not able to lend it at least at 11-12%, then it's very difficult for them to survive. So a bank will pay you an interest which is equal to what they can pay minus their cost. So that is how interest rates work. So bonds won't be able to create too much wealth, but bonds can do one thing for in a temporary period, let's say 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, they can hold value. Because if you are moving from a inflated asset class, like you think equity is inflated and therefore you're moving into cash, you're not worried too much about return. There you're going for capital preservation. So that you could buy gold, you could buy, you could keep in cash. And the most important googly there is the cryptocurrency, because today to be able to say I can predict gold price movement or dollar movement is become more difficult simply because of a product called cryptocurrency, right? So that is one more thing, one more joker in the pack, which we have no clue how that is going to pan out. Not just one cryptocurrency, there are so many. So it's not just Bitcoin, which may be 30-40% of the market cap, but yes, so many cryptocurrencies which will survive, what will do well, we are not guessing. So therefore that also has an impact on gold and the dollar, right? Beyond the role of liquidity, and liquidity could mean even 3 months to 5 years or 10 years, liquidity, beyond liquidity requirement, bonds are pretty useless as a wealth creation tool, but it is the place where you go to when you think some assets are overpriced. If you think equity is overpriced and metals will do nothing, you will remove some money from equity, you will remove some money from metals, and you keep it in cash. That is not likely to give you great returns, but that is kept just for a rainy day, when some mispriced asset is thrown at you and you can pick it up. So therefore you move it there, right? So it is not a wealth creation tool, but you need it as a temporary parking space when you think assets are overpriced. I think if I think equities are overpriced today, or if I think automobiles are in India are overpriced today, I will sell off some Tata Motors and Maruti Suzuki and keep it in cash. If I think pharma is overpriced, I'll sell a part of my Sun Pharma and Lupin or whatever else I have and keep that in cash. So it is a place to move your money and keep liquidity for 10 years. So let's say next 10 years expenses are lying in liquid fund or ultra short bond fund, etc. I'm not expecting a return there. I'm just expecting preservation of capital as it is. I'm not even worried about inflation. I'm not worried about taxation. If I'm in ultra short bond fund, I'll pay tax only when I withdraw. So that is not really so much of an issue. I'm not worried about any of those things. It is a place where I have to go to in case I have an emergency. The other place where you can go to for this is government bonds, because that is the only thing which will be liquid in a bad case scenario. I remember in March 2020 when the markets crashed, believe it or not, the Tata Group paper was also not finding takers at 9% yield, which was not a bad yield in March 2020. So that is what happens. So you have only gilts, because gilts, you know, at 2 a.m. you can get money, you can always sell it off in the market. It will not be at too much of a discount. So capital preservation it does in absolute terms. 100 rupees will be 100 rupees. What that 100 rupees can buy is not what I am talking about. So you shift, you are not going to make too much money. That brings us to another category, which is which will not grow, which means if you have say 1 kilo of gold, this 1 kilo of gold will remain 1 kilo of gold for next 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years. It doesn't matter. Nothing will change. You are only hoping that somebody else will come and pay a higher price than this. I am not saying whether it will happen or not happen. I am saying this asset like gold, it does not have too much of industrial use, very little industrial use, unlike say silver. But people buy it for ornaments or just as a store of value. People are hoping that it will beat inflation. Even today in most Indian marriages there will be some quantity of gold, whether you like it or don't like it. There will be at least 5 lakh, 10 lakh worth of gold. Not that 5 lakh, 10 lakh means something big, but 5 lakh, 10 lakh is what is the minimum required when you make one Mangal Sutra, 2 bangles and things like that. That will take away 5 lakhs. So I'm assuming, so some money will be spent hoping or invested in gold, hoping that somebody else will come and pay a higher price and buy it from you. may or may not happen, but that is one asset class is gold. We have seen equity, we have seen we have seen debt, we have seen gold, and the third one is farmland. You can buy a farm, outsource the farming or do it yourself, hope to create enough productive assets, something produce out of it, maybe apples, maybe peach, maybe anything, maybe kiwi fruit. All these are now grown in India. That's why I'm not talking of mangoes, which we know how grows in India. Some kind of a farming activity which you do, which you will be able to sell, that should also appreciate. But please understand, there are so many limitations, so much of government interference in that people normally stay away from it as a possibility of appreciation. Of course, there are real estate deals which are available, but normally it would mean a second house with a small acreage where you can walk around or things like that, and not really as a farming. Once upon a time, farming shares were all created, but now I don't see any commercially how a retail investor can invest in a farmland. So either you become a farmer. I don't think there is a collective vehicle available. All of us can't put money in one company and say this company will do farming. That is not available. Yes, you can buy shares of farm produce companies, but you can't get into farming that way. So that is possibly out. That brings us to another asset class, which is real estate. You buy real estate, you give it on rent. Very, very sadly, very, very funnily, the real estate yields in India are very low, way below the interest rates that you pay. So if you pay, say, 7% interest today to buy a house on the borrowing, you will not get more than 1.5% return on as rent. So the balance 5.5% plus taxation plus inflation has to be made up by appreciation. So your real estate has to really appreciate by very close to what the bond is doing, simply because the yield that you are getting is very low, and that is happening historically over a very long period of time. The yields have actually worsened because the real estate prices have gone up and the rent has not gone up to keep pace with that. The rent increase is not commensurate with asset price increase, which is what I call a bubble. But real estate, at least in cities like Mumbai, has been in a bubble for a very long time. It is not correcting enough to justify. Like I would love it if the rents were 6%, because that is the rate at which I have to borrow money. That will force more people to borrow and buy a house. Right now it favors the renter. It does not favor the landlord. Things could change. 1 year later I could be saying something different, but as of now that is the situation. So we have seen how bonds will work, how gold will work, or I'm saying that for almost all metals. Unless there is a huge surge in demand, the price of gold can't go up. Why is there surge in demand? Because people are afraid that something bad is going to happen. COVID 3, COVID 4, COVID 5, that fear. So people were fearful buy a lot of gold, or people who think that other assets are overpriced, so let me buy gold as a hedge against inflation. I'm not a big fan of gold as a hedge against inflation. I have some gold in my portfolio. Sometimes it has done well, sometimes it has not done well. It does not bother me too much. Plus my wife has some jewelry lying in some bank locker untouched. So there is some gold in my portfolio, but not something which I think is going to appreciate. I do not know. Hopefully it will appreciate. I'm hoping, but it's not some part of strategy. But many people have gold, many people have other assets, and today a mutual fund is available which will invest in various metals. It will decide at each point of time where to invest. So metals is one more place where you can invest. That brings us to the my favorite asset class, that is equity, and we'll talk about equity. So you knew this was coming, right? So my favorite is equity. My logic is, if I buy gold, it will not grow. If I buy bonds, it will not keep pace with inflation and tax. That leaves me with only one asset class, that is equity. Equity has its disadvantages. I am also saying don't fall in love with equity, but let us look at it this way. If I invest in companies like, say, Indigo or HUL or Colgate or any of these companies, will 10 years later, 20 years later, will people be willing to pay some bits of their currency to buy a toothpaste to brush? Will they buy soap? Will they buy shampoo? I'm simple question, right? Whether people will pay for travel, whether people will pay for entertainment, whether people will spend money and buy a Tata Motor car, right? So this is the question. So yes, if the answer is yes, these companies will grow in value and will be able to add something to you. If you bought a farmland and you grew some crops, will people be willing to pay money to buy your mangoes? Will people be willing to pay money to buy your kiwi fruit, whatever, right? Something they will buy. So there will be value added by this asset of yours, whether it is real estate or whether it is equity, right? So that is very clear and visible, and it will protect you against inflation, because the good companies, the best companies have inflation protection in terms of pricing power. So when Colgate's costs go up by 10%, they are hopeful that they will be able to increase the end price by at least 10.5% or 11%, at least to keep pace with inflation. Normally, if you historically see over 10 years or 20 years, prices of branded goods go up much higher than inflation, but at least it will keep pace with inflation. So therefore, if you put together a bunch of stocks, all with good pricing power and growth and good management, etc., 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 chances are this bunch should do better than your other asset classes, which some of which you don't have a easy way of investing, like farmland. You can't invest in a farmland. I would love to invest money in a Indian farmland company which does direct agriculture. Apart from the agriculture producing companies, I mean the manufacturing companies which use it as a raw material, just pure agriculture, creating crops and selling it. I'm sure there is scope, but there is no way how you can invest. So it comes back to, where do you really invest to get a real return, which we spoke of first. It has to be equity. It has to be equity stocks. And a small story, if you see the whole world, the richest people today are not judged by the size of their house or by the number of planes they own or things like that. Many of them may have multiple planes and multiple cars, but they judge on market cap. So whether it is Bill Gates or Ratan Tata, or whether it is anybody, Ambani, Adani, or Buffett, or any of these people, they are judged by the amount of market cap that they control, not necessarily how much of what size of house they have. Buffett and Ratan Tata, I think, live in the smallest houses in the list that I spoke of, right? So but they control a lot of market cap, right? That's what we are looking for. So to me, after having seen all this, the answer is very simple. Equity is the only asset class which will give you a good, positive, real, long-term good return. So that's my advice to you. Thank you.